have an exciting 15-minute capsule for you. So let's get started. Let me set it up for you. The discussion today has its roots in the level of disruption that different companies in the world are facing. In fact, over the past 5 years, this disruption is 300% or so more than what it was earlier. Right? Now, in this disruption, we interviewed 1,500 companies and found that there's a small group, about 8% of that or so, which is kind of pulling away from the rest. Superior financial metrics, superior ESG, E&D, everything, 360-degree value. So what are they doing differently? Almost all of them report that technology and digital is what is powering them, their growth, innovation, and so on. New capabilities, startups, etc., etc., etc. Now, global capability centers, or GCCs, are seen as an excellent platform for actually doing all of this. How do different companies do it? You'll find that there's something different that each one does. Now, ExxonMobil, the name is known to everybody, and I have the pleasure today of having Mr. Monte Dobson with us. He has two roles that he plays. So he's the country lead for ExxonMobil in India. He also is the CEO for all of ExxonMobil's gas interests in India. He's a mechanical engineer, a PhD, and so on and so forth. And I'm excited to ask him, what is it that they're doing differently? So welcome, and thank you so much, Monte, for giving us time.
Thank you very much. Can everyone hear me okay? Very good. My wife and I have been in India now for about 2.5 years, and I'll say the same thing for today that I say about that 2.5 years, that it's been a real blessing. The experience to be here, learn a new culture, meet new friends. And I would say this week I feel very similarly. It's a great venue. It's been an outstanding week, discussing subjects that I like with old and new friends. Looking forward to a great weekend here in Goa. So really have been looking forward to this discussion.
Absolutely. So Monte, let me start off. So very quickly, when ExxonMobil went about looking for where they should set up their business centers and technology centers, why did you select India? And what are you planning to do differently? Is there something unique about India that you're planning to leverage? So just walk us through what went through, and why did you go ahead and do this?
Great question. So I'll sort of go to the beginning and say that I suspect the things that initially brought us here are the things that bring others here. And as I drive around Bangalore, or am driven around Bangalore, I see lots of multinationals with their sign doing their thing. But I think what drew us here ultimately was abundant talent in the disciplines that really matter to our business. So a broad breadth of businesses. So abundant skills in the right area, affordable, scale. Okay. So we saw all of those things present here in India. Maybe one level beneath that, I would say also India is really blessed with an ecosystem for companies that are looking to start a GCC here in India. So the presence of MSPs that allow people the opportunity to decide what they wish to do themselves versus what they wish to do through others is a competitive advantage if I compare India to other places where ExxonMobil has similar setups. And then lastly, it would probably be incomplete to not mention that English-speaking employees and the fact that they're highly adaptable. One need only look at the number of US companies that have an Indian CEO. The new Prime Minister of the UK, to highlight that Indian employees fundamentally are very adaptable, and we find that to be extremely so within our company. There are certain behaviors, core values, et cetera, and we find that the Indian employees embrace that, adapt it, and do it really well. Now, what's a little different about us? I would say the simple thing I would highlight is breadth. The breadth of what we are doing and what we intend to do here in India. If I go back to the very beginning, we recently celebrated the 25th anniversary of something that we called the Bangalore Research, Development and Technology Center. That was initially put in India to help Indian manufacturers of tires do innovation we ultimately concluded that that could serve a broader range of purposes. So today we use it to help test new plastics, new packaging, et cetera, not just for India, but for the globe. So it was a GCC before I believe the term GCC was invented. When we began our more recent foray, it began with financial services, which I think one would expect, with IT, which one would expect because of the amount of talent that's here, but also with technology. And today we're serving a broad range of technology capabilities here from India, really anything that one would historically do in Houston. Today we're doing some of that here in India, including supporting our global projects organization, which builds and puts in place the multi-billion-dollar capital projects that are pivotal to our business.
Right. So, how's it working out? Are you, you're obviously using the capability centers, as we call them, to deliver business value. So, how do you see this evolving going forward? Will they be doing more or less similar things? Are they moving up the value chain? In short, what's the long-term vision that you have for this?
I think I'll leave people with a single word, which is more. More is my message. So what does that really mean? I think more breadth of work. We began here in particular disciplines. As those disciplines have succeeded, they begat the birth of other disciplines being formed here. More complexity of work. This began for us with many people testing out a particular thing here. As that has succeeded, it increases confidence to do more complex work. I think more end-to-end work versus tasks. And in our company, that comes with the expectation that we're actually measured for whether in that area we're producing the best global result. I'm very confident that our employees here are up to delivering that, but I think it will have more measurement of value for us, which will ultimately produce more satisfaction for our employees, benefit for the company.
Okay.
Also, I would say, just if I come down from the ether a little bit, more and take it down a level, it will ultimately produce more benefit for the country, and I think in ways that may not have been initially envisioned. I take the one area, or really two areas, procurement.
Okay.
My wife and I travel India a little bit. Indian employees are naturally skilled negotiators, but we began serving the region. We're producing great results. We will soon serve the world. And as we do it, our employees are highlighting that there are Indian manufacturers that could beat the prices that we're paying.
Okay.
We intend to qualify them. We intend to use them. So that produces benefits for India. In global projects, we ultimately construct the multi-billion-dollar facilities that are destined for Mozambique, Guyana, the U.S. Gulf Coast. Mm-hmm. Those things tend to be constructed in a few locations around the world. The world's recently been reminded that supply chain isolation is risky.
Yes.
We would like more of that to happen here in India. So the heat exchanger for LNG could be made here. One day, perhaps a floating production system for Guyana could be made here. So all of those things produce better work for our people, better results for us, benefits that flow all across the country.
That's a good answer, Montes. But you mentioned that this is also of value to India. Now there have been studies which show that there are 1,500 plus GCCs that companies have set up in India. And what got me surprised was that the number is increasing by 20 to 30 every quarter. So there is some scale up happening. But from an insider's, so to say, perspective, what do you think India can do to scale up the GCC industry, if you will, in India and kind of use it? 1.5, or so million people employed and so on. So what can we do to scale it up?
Right. Great question. The number of new ones highlights clearly that it's working. Yeah. But I do think there are some things that can allow it to flourish even more. If I go back to the very beginning, abundant talent was really the key reason that we came here. Mm-hmm. And we are certainly drawing employees who compete well in our global system, but not everybody in every university in India meets the criteria that we would want for our employees. So if everybody who invests in an education here is ultimately someone that we would desire to bring in. That would be a benefit to us and to the country. Infrastructure. Many of our employees come to Bengaluru from a tier 2 city, take a great deal of pride in having arrived in a big city. It's pretty tough to get around. Some of them have a pretty long commute to the office and from the office. If that was reduced a bit, it helps the city overall, but it helps them innovate more for us while still having the quality of life that they wish to. And lastly, India has improved dramatically over the last decade and a half in ease of doing business. But ultimately, in the GCC space, like others, it's a competitive world. We have on the order of 10 plus of these across the globe. So having a tax and regulatory framework that is predictable and easy to navigate is important to continued growth. And if I highlight those two examples in your second question of potentially constructing more things in the country, that will involve bringing goods at some level of build out into the country, adding value here with Indian employees, and then moving those to their ultimate destination. For that to happen smoothly and for India to compete in that area where it isn't ahead today, but has all the raw ingredients to one day be ahead, the ability to bring those things in, move them out, and have a regulatory tax fiscal framework that enables that to happen seamlessly really increases the chances that India is the +1 and China +1.
Right, fascinating, Monte. So I have another question and I think I can squeeze that in. So the GCCs as a phenomena is really something that's happened in India for the past 10 or 15 years. So there was a global ecosystem of innovation. There was a global ecosystem of where you would go to do things and so on. Now that GCCs in India are kind of exploding and becoming very, very relevant, how do you see the global landscape of, let me see now, how you as a company would go about doing innovation? And I'm using that broad term. How does the growth of GCCs in India kind of reshape the way it was, say, 20 years ago?
Yeah, I think that it's a very competitive landscape to be the innovation hubs. And I highlighted that we have a number of them today. One would envision a future where a few really strong ones thrive. Perhaps there's a bit of regional orientation to that, given time zone advantages and other things. But ultimately, I would envision that as happens in most competitions, that a few places that are really strong emerge as the real hub. And if you look at 1.4 billion people, the demographic benefits that the audience is clearly aware of, and lots of things that are moving in the right direction, it certainly seems to me as a relative newcomer to India, but a lifelong friend, that India has all the right things to compete as we evolve from global capability centers, which actually leave me a bit dry when I say that. We're struggling a little bit internally for what is the right set of words. If anybody wants to pop by my booth and has a better idea, I'm very happy to hear them. But I think India is very well positioned to take this whole idea to the next level, when I would expect a few global regional superpowers to emerge. And I certainly hope India is one of them.
Thank you so much. Many, many more questions, but I think we are approaching our time. It has been a pleasure to talk to you, Monte. And hopefully we come back with a better set of questions and a lot more time in the next IEW. Thank you so much.
An old mentor of mine gave me crisp advice. He said, be brief, be brilliant, be gone. So hopefully we achieve.